This is Randy Sullivan, the host of Bourbon Real Talk. I grew up in a small town and went to a small church where everyone looked and thought like me. Over the years, I've gotten to know and love people from all different walks of life. This has made my world bigger and richer. The secret ingredient in forming those relationships was getting to know people's real stories. That helped me to identify with them, have compassion on them, and eventually develop a real connection with them. We live in a disconnected world today, and I want to do everything in my power to build connections between individuals who may not have attempted friendship otherwise. I've observed this happening in the bourbon community on its own because whiskey naturally brings people together. Bourbon Real Talk hopes to combine the world's new passion for bourbon into an opportunity to bring people together. We will share some whiskey knowledge, some good drams, and some real talk. So sit back, pour a drink, and open your hearts and minds. You might just find yourself feeling more connected to the people in the world around you, all fueled by bourbon. Hello, everyone out there in Bourbon Real Talk land. Randy Sullivan here, coming to you with a very special edition of Bourbon Real Talk. I have my very good friend, Philip Roberson. Known him since he was a little kid.
Before I was even a person. I knew what was going on.
That's fair. We're going to get into that a little bit. But Philip here today is going to help me drink a little bit of this whiskey and share a little bit of his life experiences and what it's been like for him growing up as a black man, for those of you who are not watching. But listening. Yeah. Some of them listen. Yeah. So they may not know that you're black. Plus, you got that ability to talk with your white voice. So, you might throw them off a little bit.
Yeah. I'm going to do my best to try not to do that. I don't even know my voice I'm going to talk in.
That's funny. All right. So today we're going to be checking out this Rossville Union. This is the barrel proof rye whiskey. This one happens to be 56.3 proof. And the reason why I picked this one for today is because, one, it's delicious. But for those of you out there that are not familiar with this label, Rossville Union, so in the whiskey world, there's been a production company, MGPI, out of Indiana, and they've been selling their distilled spirits to other companies who bottle them under their own label and sell them, what's called non-distiller producer. And MGPI realized, well, why don't we start our own label? And so this is MGP's new label, Rossville Union. That's what they're selling their rye whiskey under. And I happen to have been involved in a barrel selection through the Rossville Union label. So the first barrel selection of this product to ever come to the state of Texas was selected by my whiskey club, Someone Say Whiskey. And it's actually supposed to be delivered to Loyalty Liquor in the colony. Aaron Arterburn was gracious enough to allow us to do that pick for his store. And it's going to be here in another week or two. So I thought it'd be fun for us to drink this because this is close to what that's going to be as is commercially available. Now, it's a little bit different than most whiskey barrel selections because it's kind of like a bespoke whiskey. You pick a profile and then they make it to your profile as opposed to selecting from one individual barrel. But this should be pretty close to it. But typically, we just smell it up, taste it, give the people some notes. So first off on the nose, this Rossville Union's got that typical MGPI dill, like that dill pickle. It's not overpowering. There's a ton of clove and nutmeg in it as well. But you can smell that dill in there a little bit.
What's the deal, pickle?
What's the deal? And a wee bit of that pine needle kind of piney smell as well. See what it tastes like.
It tastes good.
Yeah.
My palate's not experienced, so I can't give a honest. I'm like, I just like, yeah.
Yeah, Philip just drinks whiskey.
Yeah, just whiskey.
Yeah, but no.
He knows what he's tasting. I don't.
On the palate, you're getting a lot of the vanilla and, some caramelized sugar from the barrel, but a lot of that clove, nutmeg, very spicy, a little bit of that dill. It's all in all a delicious, rye whiskey. And I've pointed out to people that if this whiskey had been sold to one of the non-distiller producers, it would have been possible for it to have been bottled and put on the shelves at a much higher price than what you can buy this for, because MGPI is selling these bottles for less than what a lot of the non-distiller producers that used to purchase this product from them were selling it for. So it's kind of a good value as well. If it had been made into like Kentucky Owl Rye or something else, it'd be way more expensive. But anyway, good whiskey. If you get a chance to pick one up, I think you should. And if you're local, you should probably check out the Rossville Union Pick at Loyalty Liquor. It's going to be good stuff. I got to help select it. So anyway, how old were you, Philip, when we met?
Okay. When me and Randy met, I was 14 or 15 years old, in that bracket. It was funny. I'll tell the same story if you don't mind me sharing.
I don't care. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm pulling up. We're in a gold late models 90 Ford Explorer, and with rims on it. And my dad's pulling up around the side of the building. And at the time of the story I'm about to tell, I already known Randy and just had met him. And, but he was the most awesome thing in the world to me, and met him through a friend named Derek Conley, and brought me to the Calvary.
Yeah.
And Randy,
we skipped a part. Yeah. It was at church.
It was at church.
I used to be a junior high youth pastor, and even though I wear cowboy boots all the time, like I hung out with all the black kids.
That's no exaggeration. All the black kids. And we loved it. And
so that's how I met Philip. Is the Conleys and him used to run the streets together.
The colony, the hard, mean streets of the colony.
And so we met at church. But anyway, so your dad's pulling up.
My dad's pulling up. He's pulling around the corner, and there's this rail, like a bar, that sat by our doors that you had to walk around with. And
it was the kids from like running out the building into the street. So it was just like a little railing.
Randy is kipping on him, like doing half parkour. He's kicking his feet up and clicking his heels, making seal noises when my dad is pulling up. And when my dad is the blackest of black, he pulls up, he sees Randy, he's like, what the hell is he doing? And me, being a kid at the time, I said, oh no, that's just Randy.
It's fine.
It's normal. That's just Randy.
Yeah.
My dad looked at me like, okay, I don't know, because he's like, I'll drop you up in the church. The first thing you see is a grown man and kicking his feet up. And like, if I had enough room, I'll show y'all an example because I'm super animated. But
you don't have room.
It was he was.
I would do that from time to time. Yeah. I used to be really, really silly about stuff like that. But no, we hung out all the time. Yeah. We would do sleepovers at the house where like all the boys would go to one house, and then all the girls would go to another house. The boys would stay up watching movies and boxing each other in the backyard. All kinds of crazy shenanigans. I mean, honestly, I don't know how we got away with half the stuff that we did.
I don't either. There was people that was so upset about that. Yeah. Like, oh, you're going to go hang out with Pastor Randy's house. What are y'all going to do? Backyard boxing. I'm going to watch your kids beat each other up.
I boxed some of the kids. I boxed some of the bigger ones. I hit Chris Phillip in the face so hard that it pulled a muscle in my forearm. It didn't knock him out, though. And I could never knock out Julian.
Oh, no. Mm-mm. Dorte. Mm-mm. He really. They hard to knock out.
Yeah.
No offense, but it's hard to just sleep on one. They just good.
Yeah, he can take a punch for sure. But anyway, yeah, so we've been hanging out for years. And, but Philip and Philip worked for me for a little bit, and we worked out together. And we were talking one day while we were on the elliptical about the Black Lives Matters movement, because Philip's got a white wife, but she black militant.
Oh, no, yeah.
She's way worse than Philip ever thought about being.
Yeah, you would think that I'd be like, be the one, but she's obviously way more like super, and it may be just because of personal love. She may feel she has to cater to that. It could be personal. I ain't even had the conversation of say, babe, hey, sit down and talk. Why are you so damn militant? Never happened, but she is super militant, super hypersensitive, very everything but the opposite nature. She's I guess if you want to put a word, very democratic, pro-female, pro-black, whatever words you want to put to it. She posts a lot of
political type statements on social media. And so one day I was asking Philip about some stuff that she said, and I said, I don't want to argue, I just don't understand, right? And so he and I talked about it for a good long time, and honestly, I think that conversation was probably the impetus for me starting this podcast. Because I realized, there is a whole other, set of life experiences that people that are different from me are experiencing. And I have no personal knowledge of that. And I'm not the only one. So I need to use the connective power of whiskey to get people to sit down and share their stories so that we can better understand our fellow man.
Amen to that.
And women.
And women too.
Yeah.
I can't amen enough. The whole problem is that it's an undertone. It's a big problem, and people have it in the back of their minds as an issue. But let's let this, like we were talking earlier, let's let this bridge the gap.
Right.
For understanding, and that's it. And we know a little bit more, and now we get away from let's argue our points and argue and work against each other to work it together. And that's the whole point. If anything, I hope this inspires people just to freaking work together
and talk.
No, like he said earlier, but know your fellow man.
Right.
You can't put in no better words. You get it. You understanding your perception and perspective is now at that opposite person's mercy, because they live a separate life from you.
Right.
Different experiences, and that's it. Yeah.
So let's talk about your life a little bit growing up. So at a pretty early age, you went through a time period where you were living on your own, right? Just, normal life circumstances resulted in you needing to have your own place. At that point, your wife, but at the time y'all weren't married, she also was in a very similar life situation where she didn't really have a place. And so you guys moved in together when you were how old?
17.
17, and
I
she
was
was
17.
16?
Yeah, 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost 16. A little bit before. Just tell the truth, shame the devil. I was 17. And she was, 15.
She was 15?
Yes.
Okay. And it wasn't like, she was knocked up or anything like that. In fact, y'all been married for 11 years?
11 years. 23rd.
And
August.
Your only child's 7.
Yep.
Right?
8 now.
8.
May the 10th, 2008.
So, it'd be easy for somebody to hear about your life situation and think that you were making bad choices. But because you had moved in with your girlfriend, you got married at a very early age. Some people may go, oh, well, she was probably pregnant or whatever. No.
Yeah.
In reality,
it's a thing. My pastor at the time actually asked us when we wanted to get married, asked us, so is she pregnant? That was the first thought of his mouth. So I get pregnant. I was like, no.
But the reality was you were being responsible, right? You were taking care of yourself. You were taking care of, this girl that you loved. And both of y'all were in life situations where you needed that. And that's a lot of responsibility for a young man, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. I'm not even used to hearing it, but that somebody just notice, realize that. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I know what it's like to be, you know, the pressure that I feel, the responsibility that I feel towards my family, towards my kids. And I just couldn't imagine having felt all that pressure at 17, you know, feeling like I was responsible for taking care of somebody else as well. So, but anyways, the pastor did encourage you guys to get married because you were living together.
Yeah.
Right. And so y'all got married. How old were y'all?
When we got married, I was 19 and she was 19 and she was 17. We tried to do as textbook as we could, because I had that conviction. I had them spiritual convictions at the time, and say my head is this high. The water with me being the Jesus juice water was this high, and yeah, I was all the way in, sold out, and I believed in doing something right. You know, and like say, I don't want to do it wrong. I loved her. Fun fact. My wife wore his wife's wedding dress.
That is true.
When we got married, and they catered to us and loved us like we were like brother and sister, like we were family. And it's something I've never freaking forgot. And it's something I say, it's one of the things that retorts when this man's name is brought up over here. It comes right off my legs. Hey man, he's this real deal. Unapologetic. And one thing I've loved about our relationship, he's never not told me the truth. He tells me the truth unapologetically, or whatever word you want to say. And he just tells me how it is. Hey, This is the way it's going to be, man. This is what's the deal.
Now, for those of you who are listening and not watching, Philip's a lot bigger than me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you how much you weigh right now, because you ain't been working out with me. But he's weighed since he's been everywhere between 255 and 360 as I've known him as an adult. And we're not talking about like, you know, the blubbery kind, right? Like he's just big. He's just, I joke, and I sometimes people take this the wrong way. I'm like, my friend Philip, he's like a silverback gorilla. When he's standing there, that's like, his stance looks like a silverback gorilla. He got that sway in his back, and you know, his like chest is out. He's just a monster. And we actually worked out together for a good long time. And man, he got lean. I mean, he's strong as an ox. And so I'll tell you this: if you ever get real wrong and hurt me or one of my kids or my wife, and you see Philip at your house, he ain't there to play patty cake. Yeah, that's my boy. Right?
It's good.
He's got my back like chiroprac.
Yeah,
so
it's gonna be serious. Don't do it. Just let this whole little section. You gotta let him make it.
Yeah. And so I've always loved Philip. Always been one of my good friends, and we've maintained contact. You know. So yeah, I did help he and his wife when they got married. Philip and I've been close for a while, but right after you got married and you're living with your wife, she's still in high school.
Yeah.
Right. And you guys didn't have a ton of money. So you had a car, but you didn't have two cars. Mm-hmm. And so she's a married woman, but she's riding to school on the school bus, right?
Yeah.
And this caused you to get into some trouble.
There was a kid, and remember when we talked about that church thing? That was giving my wife the business. He wanted her. He wanted her for himself, and he hit on her every day. And he was not afraid to show and make a speculation. He made a spectacle every time he did it. He wanted everybody's attention, and I guess it was a pro hyper masculine type of thing. He felt good at the time until he found out there was somebody bigger and badder than his ass. But you know, his name was, for one, Christian, and that's a big issue. His name was Christian.
Christian's getting on the bus every day, and he's basically sexually harassing your wife
all the time. every day.
Like way overboard, saying really sexually aggressive things. All of it's like wildly inappropriate. She's telling him to stop. He won't stop.
It got bad. It got so bad that, you know, we pulled a meeting with him, the superintendent, principal, and the principal of the school, plus superintendent, and all that. And I was invited to that meeting. And Deanna, but Christian is a running back at that school, starting running back. He think he's the ish. And they literally looked her because she wanted to press charges, want to do something. They looked her in the eye and told her, well, he could just press charges back.
And so they refused to do anything
to discipline him,
to stop him, you know,
because they were benefiting.
High school football star, right? And so they scared this young girl who's being sexually harassed into believing that there was nothing that could be done.
Yeah.
Right? Was this a black kid?
Yeah. He was black.
If you're a married man and you're listening to this, imagine that, you know, you're young, you don't exactly know how everything works. There's somebody that's disrespecting your wife. She's asking him to stop. She does what she's supposed to do. She goes to the authorities. She asks them to punish him, to make him stop. They basically say, no, he can do what he wants to you, right?
He can press charges back.
He can do,
it's your word against his. Really?
And so then you decided you were going to take matters into your own hands and let this boy know that there was going to be some serious consequences if he didn't leave your wife alone.
Yep. I got a bad text message from my wife. I'm out there working hard in the heat and I'm sweating. You know, I'm tired of dealing with this. This has disrupted our marital life. We can't sleep. We're talking about this. This is the last conversation we have, and it's another problem she keeps putting before me. And you got to fix it. That's how she looked at me. I got to fix it.
Right.
And so, you know what? Got the bad text message again. The guy's here. He's done it again. And it's extra. I'm tired of dealing with you. You need to come handle this right now. So she rides a school bus and he drops them off the same place. So I was there, locked Dakota Raider. But granted, here's your imagery. You have literally a sweaty, at the time, tip-top shape. Way better, more cuts. 255 pounds of don't with me. Like sweating and just in the heat of the day with a big red do-rag on my head. And so the bus stops, it pulls up, it stops, and the doors open and no kids want to get off. This how bad they're looking at me. And I know I'm just angry at the time and I need to know I have a purpose. So immediately I did go and step on the bus. He was 80-plus-year-old bus driver at the time. Yes, white man. Stood in front of me, right in my way, and said, you cannot walk on this bus. I said, I get that, sir. I just need to talk to somebody. And it was a little bit deceptive because, to be honest with you, at the time, I did not know what I was going to do. But I knew whoever was on that bus that had been bothering my wife needed to meet me and needed to know under no circumstances that you're not what it is. Mm-hmm. How bad it was. So he steps in my way. He says, okay. He said, but you got to take that do-rag off your head. It's against our school rules. So remember, I said I had a do-rag on. He lets me on the bus. Now, at this point, legally, I'm a visitor because the person who owns that bus, in my opinion,
right,
let me on. So I get on the bus, walk down the aisle, and every girl and dudes that was laughing, that was kind of his halfway friends. You think you got friends. So they're like, yeah, you're right there. I spoke my piece. I said, hey, man, you know who I am and you know why I'm here. The biggest thing I said for a threat was, let's not ever meet again. Let's not ever talk again. Mm-hmm. Stop it. Mm-hmm. And I got up and I literally just walked off the bus. And as I'm walking off the bus, they started clapping. They started applauding. I'm not kidding you. Too stupid to make up. People are clapping because this guy had to be a jerk. He just had to be a jerk, and people didn't really appreciate it, you know, thinking how cool he was. He ended up shaving his head completely and moving schools.
Really?
Completely, yeah. Enrolled in the school, yeah. He shaved his head and moved schools. That's exactly long hair, shaved head, moved schools. Didn't even want anything to do with it because obviously the school had been harboring him and been protecting him through all his athletic abilities and all his mess too.
Mm-hmm.
There's no telling how much stuff he actually did get away with. But where it ended was when he started messing with me and my wife, and that was not cool.
And so they ended up pressing charges against you
Days later
for having gone onto the bus.
This is Randy Sullivan with the Randall Sullivan Home Selling Team and the host of Bourbon Real Talk. Producing a podcast is time-consuming and expensive, and Bourbon Real Talk wants to maintain its integrity by not promoting products and services that it doesn't believe in. For this reason, I've opted to have my real estate team sponsor this program. The Randall Sullivan Home Selling Team has operated since 2008. We've sold almost 500 homes. We have proprietary programs that make a massive difference to the outcome of our clients, and we service the entire North Texas area. If you live in North Texas and you need to buy or sell a home, please give us a chance to explain how our services could benefit you. We understand that not all of our listeners live in North Texas. We also know that not all real estate agents are created equal. If you need a real estate agent outside of North Texas, the Randall Sullivan Home Selling Team has access to tools to help you find a highly qualified agent in your area. The service is free for you, and we stick around through the end of the process to help you with your transaction, even when we're not your agent. If you have a real estate transaction in your future, please reach out to us at randallsullivanteam.com, Facebook, Instagram, or just give us a call at 214-385-9101.
He presents me the papers and he lets me know the charges that are being used. They wanted criminal trespasses at the highest. They wanted criminal intimidation, criminal trespass at the highest, worst one, criminal intimidation, and terroristic threat. No joke.
With no audio.
With no audio. No exaggeration.
What were you convicted of?
Criminal attempt, $500 ticket. By the time after I hired my lawyer, but it was hell I went through.
Yeah.
I had to hire a whole lawyer. Cool cat. And I disproved everything. As for one, the man made me remove my do-rag before getting on the bus, which proves that I wasn't a threat.
But you still pled down, and you do have a conviction.
Yeah, the conviction is criminal attempt, and it's now no longer a felony. It's now it's a traffic misdemeanor.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a misdemeanor. It's a $500 ticket.
Right, but that's here you are. This, you're
this after $4,000 plus of fees.
You're
lawyers,
probably 18 years old.
Yeah.
At this time, right?
Yeah.
And spending every penny that you'd saved up to try and get your life off to the right track and all that, just because somebody was sexually harassing your wife, you couldn't get them to stop. And so you had to take matters in your own hands the way any man watching or listening to this podcast would have done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that sounds like the police officer that you interacted with was reasonable. And
he
whatnot.
was. He told me to go turn myself in. I went and turned myself in. He gave it to me. He said, "Hey, man, I want you to right there and go. You should go and turn yourself in because it'll look better on your case, and you need to hire an attorney because he said this is all bullshit."
Yeah. And so, looking the way that you do, being the size that you are, not all of the interactions that you've had with law enforcement have been positive.
No,
right?
By far.
So
No.
tell me about some of the interactions that you've had that weren't so good.
This is one of these negative experience. I'm pulling off. Yes, it looks like I am a drug dealer, but I'm not a drug dealer, and there's no reason to assume I am a drug dealer. That's my point.
Right.
He immediately U-turns, gets behind me. He's going this way. He's headed back towards Cali. I'm going into Louisville to my uncle's house. He sees me, and I see him seeing me. I looked at him, and me being me, I'm just goofy, and I'm a happy person. I waved at him. I wasn't being sarcastic. I just needed to let him know, just say, "Hey, I see you doing your job over there."
Hey, buddy.
"Hey, man, how you doing?" Waved at him. I got my music cranking up. I'm at this time, I'm listening to Christian rap. Mm-hmm. Christian rap is blaring Lecrae. It's blaring doom, doom, doom in my car. And he lit me up because the imagery, he immediately pulled me over. The funny thing is, at the time, I did not know he had to present a probable cause for the reason for the stop. He did not. He immediately said, "Hey, man, I need your license and I need your proof of insurance and registration. And by the way, is this car yours?" And everything textbook from the shit my dad dealt with flooded my mind at that time.
Right.
Like, you knew this was wrong. Like, why are you doing this?
Right.
And everything I've seen in the movies, it came in my mind at this time. And I looked at the officer, and, you know, I think I might made a joke. That's one thing I do personally is, like, in the most uncomfortable situations, I'll say something kooky or retarded just to make everybody at ease or comfortable. But when I said it, I can't remember exactly what I said. Just offset it. But he immediately responded aggressively and emotionless and rude just to make sure we're not friends. Basically, this is not a thing. And I'm like, can't remember. But long story, he gave me a speeding ticket. This is no lie. He gave me a 65 and a 50 or 55. I don't know where it is. He gave me a 65 like I was speeding. Mind you, I had just left the light. I was just pulling out a light. Unclocked, ungunned, anything. Me at that time, I'm ignorant. I just don't know the law. I did not know I could fight it. And I just said, my mindset at this time, I feel like at this time in my life, I'm doing things right. So I kind of, in my mind, I figure it will work itself right out. Justice will win. He'd either something would happen magically, and it wouldn't be, you know, deal. I did not know I should have went to court, and I should have just like stated my case. I don't know. I would have won. I don't know anything, but it was very just, you know what that is. I'm like, I wasn't speeding. I just pulled off of the light. I didn't even get my car maybe past 20, 30 miles an hour, if that. He immediately lit me up. He gave me a 60. He gave me a 60 and a 55, whatever was right over 15 miles an hour, so they can give you the good ticket.
Right. And so now keep in mind at this time, you're like on the praise and worship team.
Yeah.
You're like serving at the church. Like all you did was work and go to church.
Yeah.
You didn't even drink back then, right?
No, I didn't start drinking until 26.
Yeah. He didn't. You don't drink at all.
Not a sip.
You're like, you know, taking care of your family business, you're, you know, doing the right thing, but you look the way that you do, right?
Yeah, nonetheless.
And so you get pulled over, and this is one thing that I don't think white people understand, is that there's a fear in the African-American community of like authority. Like there's even a fear to go to the doctor, right? And so they'll be sick as shit, and they're like, oh no, it'll go, give me some of that tussin, it'll go away on its own. Right? And so, you know, you knew that you hadn't done the thing that you had been accused of, but you didn't know to fight it. You didn't, you know, and that's part of why there's so much injustice in these situations, because if either one of these situations had happened to me, right, I would have gotten off scot-free. If I had been the one that got on the bus to tell the guy to leave my wife alone, I would have gotten off scot-free. I wouldn't have ended up with any criminal trespass charge or anything, right? If I gotten pulled over when I was going 25 and someone wrote me a ticket for 65, I would have gone to court, and I wouldn't have had to pay the ticket. Yeah. Right. But people don't understand that this stuff happens all the time. Right. So what other experiences have you had that were along those lines?
In the spot in the collie called Nick's Sports Bar and Grill, and we're hanging out. My uncle's there. He's being my uncle. And
by the way, his whole family, they're all huge and loud. And many of them take great pleasure in making everyone uncomfortable. Is that fair to say?
Very fair, with some sauce.
Yeah.
With cheese on it.
And so I can't imagine what it'd be like being at a bar drinking with your family.
Yeah, it is. It's everything out of the movie. We're everything short of some big ass Vikings.
Anyway.
Sitting up in there, which another. We're everything short of that, but it's just like, and the whole tension of the room, it's going to be on us.
Right.
Can't help it. But it's the truth. And so my uncle was, was just had a few too many. And he was talking to a woman. The woman got upset about some of his advances.
Mm-hmm.
Follows out, but at the point is, I nipped it in the butt.
Right.
Being me, I saw it going out of hand. I saw the trains going off the track.
Mm-hmm.
And I simply said, hey, man, we finna go. But I'm right at the nick of time where I have everybody in the car. I'm about to leave. A white SUV pulls up right in front of us and stops his truck right in front of our truck. Taps, they knock on the hood, say, yo, and it's everything stereotypical. It's like out of a movie. They're like, get y'all. That's how get out the car, get out the car. The smallest guy out of the bunch steps out and puts a flurry on this dude, the loudest talking dude who tapped on my car, puts a flurry from hell on this guy. Just boom, 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 bam, bam. Before we could even do nothing. Mm-hmm. Cops get there. The cop immediately sees a guy on the ground, beaten to a pulp, and immediately says, get on the ground, looks at me with his taser already pointed at me. Get on the fucking ground. Mm-hmm. I'm not playing. I'm like, are you serious? I ain't touched nobody. I haven't done nothing. Everybody there is telling you, not everybody, at least 3 people told this cop, the cop that was giving me a hard time, that I did not hit nobody. But it was terribly wrong. Mm-hmm. I didn't do nothing, and I had to go through something.
You were being the responsible one.
Yeah, literally said, let's go home. Mm-hmm. This got thrown into, and it's taught me something that I live my life a lot differently now as of today.
Right.
I just don't mess with that.
Well, it wasn't even that long ago. There's a convenience store that's right around the corner from your house that you go to all the time.
Yeah.
And if you ever hung out with Philip, like everywhere you go with Philip, he runs into people he knows. So it's like, it's comical. Honestly, you could take him to California. You'd be sitting in a restaurant. He'd be like, oh, Bill, what's up? Like he knows everyone. Knows actually a lot of police officers from the colony.
Which one of I got a family member that's a police officer there.
Yeah, and so he knows a lot of people. He's real friendly. And didn't one of your friends or somebody that you knew that worked at the convenience store say that they had like targeted you as someone that was stealing or something like that?
Oh, yeah. Had a picture printed out of me. All I did was literally walk into this convenience store and I lost a whole bunch of weight. A lot. Everything at this time that I was wearing that were old school clothes looked like parachutes or a big hefty garbage
That's
sack.
when you went from 360 down to like 255. Yeah.
360, 255, everything was big on me. So I walked in there, it was a cold day, and I had this really huge coat on. The convenience store had actually hired a new gentleman that worked there. And I guess he was trying to be impressive or something.
He profiled you.
He profiled me. And he printed out a picture. He swore I stole something. And kept asking me. So the next time I came back, the guys had seen me come into this convenience store again and again and again. He looked at me. He says, hey, man, you be stealing? And I looked at him like, steal what? He said, you be stealing? I was like, no, I don't steal. I hate thieves. I don't steal. Period, point blank. I'm not going to steal from you. He ripped it up and said, all right, man, I'll talk to that employee and let him know. And the deal is the guy still to this day can't look at me the same. He's very overextensively nice. He realized it was a mistake. I guess we're human beings, but hey,
yeah,
I don't know. But however, it was something that clearly he had no proof. I don't steal. And all I had was a big ass coat at the time and a do-rag like I got on today. I got a band on my head. I'm sorry.
Well, so I've known you for a long time. Mm-hmm. There's many other instances of you being racially profiled by law enforcement, by just everyday people on the street. And honestly, I've always thought that part of the reason why you're so overly friendly and can be kind of silly is because you're trying to put people's minds at ease.
He's right.
That you're, because you are menacing looking. Because you're so big, and you do often wear clothing that is intimidating to certain people, right?
That's fair. It just is. Yeah, it is. It's scary looking. I
think that it's interesting that you've developed that. does that, the fact that you've developed that is just part of your way of life as a way to get along?
Yeah.
Does that make you, is it make you angry? Do you feel like you shouldn't have to do that? Or is that, or is it the kind of thing where it's like, well, you know, if you're big and you need to know that you're big? And
it's true.
Because I've had that debate with people before where I've seen a video of law enforcement interacting with, you know, somebody in the public, and the person that the law enforcement officer is interacting with is considerably bigger. And I've made that argument that if you are that much larger, that you do kind of have to be extra careful in the way that you interact with people, because to them, you may not have a gun, but you don't need one.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fair.
To be dangerous. I remember I was talking with somebody the other day. Remember when I used to drive around in South Dallas and in Fort Worth all the time, selling those real small houses, the old houses? Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd be driving down there, and I was representing an institutional investor that was buying homes that were between, say, $20,000 and $60,000, and most of those homes are older houses, you know, 2-bedroom, 1-bath type houses that were, you know, built a very long time ago, back in the 30s and 40s. And when you go into these neighborhoods, a lot of those homes have deteriorated and been turned down. So there's like empty lots, but they're mostly African-American neighborhoods. So I'd go in there 2:00 in the afternoon, and there'll be one house where there's like 8 dudes out front with a card tape, middle of the day on Tuesday at 2:00, all drinking, playing dominoes, right? But what I learned is that back then I had a 2-door pickup truck that wasn't fancy at all. And I never wore, I always wore like a t-shirt and shorts, right? Nothing that denoted that I was any sort of position of authority or anything like that. And I would always make eye contact, right? I wouldn't act scary.
Amen.
When I get out of the car, I'd look over there. If I saw them looking at me, I'd wave like I was Forrest Gump.
Lieutenant Dan.
I'm like, hi guys, you know, and it would never fail.
I know you do that.
Yeah.
I've seen him do it.
Yeah. The youngest one would always come over, and he'd be like, yo, dog, what are you doing around here? And I'd tell him, there's some company that buys these rundown houses and, you know, fixes them up and tries to get the neighborhood nice again. And like, I go inspect the houses for them. And they go, oh, cool. Never had any problems. So then, remember that big ass truck driver that used to go to church with us, and he was out of work, that big dude? Yeah. I hired him to drive me because he was out of work, and I'd just pay him, you know, $10 an hour or whatever to drive me around. And then I'd sit in the passenger seat and work so that I wasn't wasting time driving. When I started taking him down there, things got dangerous, right? Because I couldn't do my Lieutenant Dan wave and it be done, because he was like 6'8". And so when he would get out of the car, because he'd always get out of the car and smoke a cigarette.
He had long hair too, right? Kind of. Well, he had the ponytail.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, but when they saw him, it made the situation tense. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Because he's just so big, and he would be looking at them menacingly. He had spent some time in prison. And so, you know, he just had like that air about him. He put off this energy. And when I stopped hiring him, he's like, I don't think you should be going down to those neighborhoods without me. And I didn't tell him, but I was thinking it was safer before you got there. Just your energy and your presence is like triggering people. And I think that if you are on the larger size of the spectrum, that comes with the responsibility that you've got to be conscious of the energy that you're putting out, how you're interacting with people. And, you know, you're one of those people where you do that.
To get it, like you said, and to piggyback on what he said, basically, if we were to be walking around and our body sizes or in our profile, being black or white skin, we're guns.
Right.
You're nothing less than a 50 cal.
Right.
I'm a 50 cal. I'm a
Right.
walking 50 cal. Most can do the most damaging, and you know that. It's your responsibility. Having that is just being a kind human being.
Yeah.
You're called to be kind. You're kind. I bought a big ass shirt that his wife made called "Kindness is Gangster." And I wear it every time. Kindness is gangster.
Right.
Because it's hard to do. It's hard to be kind in the world today. It is, you know. But I make it a point to be extra kind on purpose. Whatever, don't be scared of me.
Right.
That's all I want to do. Don't be scared. Do
you understand, though, from a police officer's perspective, that, you know, they may have just watched that training video that we talked about where, you know, the big dude, the big black guy punches the female officer because he's got a warrant and he didn't want to go back to jail, and it almost killed her, right? You know, if you just saw that training video before you went on shift, and then the first person you pull over is you know, they might be on edge. They might be a little bit more demanding. They may seem a little bit less friendly. And so if people listening to this, if you're just, you know, the average white dude, no, racism is not over because we elected Barack Obama. Racism is still a thing. There is still institutional racism in law enforcement. There is still there's still profiling that goes on. Somebody who looks like Philip gets discriminated against. But also know that if you are a, you know, larger person, especially a black man, I hope that people can have compassion on the law enforcement officers that are out there that have received training that complacency kills, and that you can't get caught slipping for even a half second, especially when somebody's large enough to be dangerous without a weapon. You know, you have to be diligent and and this is kind of what the police officer that I interviewed talked with me about, is that if you're giving commands that sound like requests and they don't comply, then you don't know if they didn't comply because they didn't know that it was a command or because they have ill intent. So if the situation could quickly become dangerous, you become more aggressive so that there is no question in the person's mind. They know instantly what your expectations are, so that you'll know when someone doesn't comply, you can assume that they have ill intent, right? But I've heard so many stories of interactions between African Americans and law enforcement, where the African American took the aggressive nature of the police officer as racism, and the police officers just thinking complacency kills, right? And the two just aren't understanding each other, right? And that's what I hope that this podcast can convey to people, is to, you know, create some middle ground. So we were talking earlier, why don't you tell the people what your new policy is whenever you do get pulled over and you interact with law enforcement?
I like that. I already kind of saw where you're going with that, and I'm on board. Me personally, hey, what you do is just flat out, whenever I'm getting pulled over and I can actually have something illegal in the car or something that is an actual fine-worthy infringement or whatever you want to say, it's bad. But what I do is just to offset them, or to say, hey, I'm communicating. Push you at ease. I know you're doing your job. I roll every window down in my car. By the time they get there, and by the time they even at my window, they see hands on the wheel, license and my insurance in my hand like this. And I let them know, I was like, I just want to put you at ease. There was one time that I literally had an open container in the car, and I know she saw it, and she literally let me go simply because I did something to put her at ease. And she was pulling me over for speeding. She said, I pulled you over for speeding. I think I was less than 15 over, but less than 15 by probably around 10 and some change. And she just, but when I went, before she got to my car, before she got out of her squad car, all my windows rolled down in my car, hands on the steering wheel, license, insurance in hand. What does that communicate to an officer? Is that you respect their position, you respect their job, and blah, blah, this and that. But also as me, I was shaking a little bit because I was nervous. She ain't missed the news either. She knows she's a cop at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
She knows I'm a large black man at the end. I know I'm a large black man at the end of the day. But however, she responded in love. Mm-hmm. She responded in a loving manner. She realized my position. I realized hers. And she know I respected that position. And that whole interaction, I didn't get a speeding ticket. I didn't do nothing. She said, have a good day, Mr. Roberson, slow it down. She even asked me about the tattoo on my arm. I have this big lion. I don't know if you want to get that.
Yeah.
On my tattoo, and this is sitting there. And it was on my arm. She asked me why is the cross in the cheek? I said, it's for the lion, the tribe of Judah. And I explained about some Christianity.
This is Randy Sullivan with RSHST Capital, LLC, and the host of Bourbon Real Talk. Producing a podcast is time-consuming and expensive, and Bourbon Real Talk wants to maintain its integrity by not promoting products or services that it doesn't believe in. For this reason, I have opted to have my funding company sponsor this program. RSHST Capital is the first of its kind funding company that provides pay-at-close funding to home sellers out of their equity. If you have a home to sell, need money for renovations or repairs to maximize your profit, money to stop pending foreclosure or to keep your mortgage current, or cash for really anything, then look into RSHST Capital. This program is simple. We verify that you have equity, approve you for a funding amount. You have access to that cash at practically a moment's notice for only a nominal fee. This program is raising sellers cash after closing by tens of thousands of dollars, stopping foreclosures and changing people's financial future. You pick your real estate agent, your contractor, and have access to actual cash or contracting expenses with zero upfront cost. This is a nationwide program, so if you have any curiosity about how it works, please look us up at rshstcapital.com, Facebook, or just give us a call at 214-385-9101.
When I got my concealed carry license, they talked about how to make a police officer feel at ease when you're interacting. Mm-hmm. And I do the same thing. I keep my hands on the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. I roll down the window. I try to look towards the officer's face. Mm-hmm. And not look away. He talked about how in training, if you see somebody looking around, they're looking for an escape route or whatever, that makes the officer be extra, vigilant and cautious. So I try to look at their face. If I'm going to let go of the steering wheel, I ask permission, right? If they say, can I see your proof of insurance? I say, it's in the glove compartment. Do you mind if I reach and get it? Things like that. So I don't think, what I hope can happen is that people watching this have a little bit of compassion on the difficult job that law enforcement officers face and understand that it's not a problem until it's a problem when they're interacting with the public. And when it is a problem, people lose their lives, right? And so they're trying to be diligent, and let's show them a little bit of grace and try to go that extra mile, even though the problem is that it can make you feel like you're approving of racism, right? But I hope people can understand it's not that. It's that they don't know who you are, and they don't know if you're the person that does have a gun that's going to kill them, or if you're just the person that's going to take your ticket and go on your way. Mm-hmm. And, with that understanding and that much at play, I hope that everybody can start to show a little bit more grace towards each other. The thing that causes me fear is that while I didn't understand the Black Lives Matter movement when it first started, and even when you and I first started talking about it, and I was talking with one of my friends, and he said that where he grew up, there was a rival gang that lived like 2 blocks away. So there was a lot of interactions between the two gangs. And he said that one of his brothers got into a situation where he was in the rival gang's territory. They were at a bar, and there was like 15, 20 of the rival gang and just him and one other guy. And that the younger guy started kicking static towards the bigger group. And he went up to him and said, hey, like, because we're in the same gang, I'm going to back your play. But if we live, when we get back to our hood, you're going to have to answer to me. Right. And he said, now, people that grew up with that mentality understand the concept of backing your gang's play no matter what. Right. And he said, so what white people don't understand is that when a law enforcement officer, when you see on the news that there was a officer involved shooting, and then you see the video and the officer's clearly wrong, which has happened quite a number of times, what happens? The PR person immediately gets on and says, the officer feared for his life. Right? He feared for his life. It was a drunk guy slowly stumbling away, and he shoots him in the back when he's 20 feet away. Right? Why did he fear for his life? Right? It just doesn't make any sense. That seems to the African-American community like a gang that's just supporting their gang members. Right?
Sure.
And he explained to me, he said, the difference being is that in a regular gang environment, there is a risk of prosecution.
Oh yeah.
Right. But if you set it up so that the law enforcement agency is basically a gang, but they get to behave with impunity because the government backs them up. Right. That's why it makes sense to the African-American community to kneel during the national anthem, because it's the government that's setting the unfairness up. Right. It's not that they don't support America, but that, and until someone explained it to me that way, I didn't understand the whole concept and the whole movement. The thing that I'm fearful of, though, is that something that is good and is needed is actually not creating bridges for change. I'm fearful that it's creating more separation.
Kneeling through the national anthem was intentionally disrespectful, but it was not done for anything else other to get your attention and get it to let you know it's aggressive. So you would know that the black folks, we mean business. I'm like saying we kind of, at the end of the day, we're seeing us getting killed on. We're getting to see it's repetitive time and time again. We're seeing aggressive police nature, just, and regardless of that, I know there is a code, and I know, and me personally, in my personal life, I act different now because I know a little bit more, and I got some damn good friends, just say, hey man, and then they just explain it, and then I got people who are cops that are also family members, I see both sides.
I just don't want
as a bigger person who has the potential to do wrong, with great whatever power comes great responsibility. There was nothing more less of textbook for me and that lady's response to my respect.
Well, and my fear is that the fight for the change that needs to happen, a lot of times what happens is we draw up lines, right? And you've got the Black Lives Matter on this side, and you got the Back the Blue on this side. And what happens is as each person fights for their own side,
can't help it, but
they end up kind of vilifying the other side, right?
It's easy to do. You don't realize how quickly you do it. You just
right, but then you start having things like the dude that started shooting police officers in downtown Dallas, right?
None of us.
Well,
it was. He was black.
It was a black dude, and it was around the Black Lives Matter issue, but and clearly he was crazy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But the point is that we all do have a responsibility. While there does need to be some social justice change, we need to make sure that we keep that perspective that for the Back the Blue movement, the people that you're talking about, they're humans. And for the Black Lives Matter movement, the law enforcement officers, they're also humans, right? And we have to, I hope that we as a society don't vilify the other side so much that the crazies among us suddenly go, well, it's okay to kill them because they're not really human, right? They're not human like me anyway. They're evil people, and evil people deserve to die. So I'm not a murderer. I'm a vigilante, right? And that's the thing that scares me about some of the direction that I've seen. But I think that by people having conversations just like this, being honest,
progression, man,
and learning how to understand what the other side is going through. Law enforcement officers need to know what it's like to be a black man who's been pulled over 15 times in your life when you weren't speeding
on a Monday,
and have somebody draw their gun on you or pull you out of the car and search your car for narcotics when all you do is play piano at church. You know, they need to understand what it's like for you, and people on the other side need to understand what it's like for them to go to work and not know whether or not their kids are going to be greeted by a fellow officer telling them that their dad died at work that day. Right.
That's fair.
And so
not fair, but tragic, terrible. God forbid that ever happened, but it's terrible. And just all the side, you know, law enforcement, you have my respect, you have my love. I got my arms wide open. Let's hug it out.
Hug it out. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up with that. Philip's super private. He doesn't even use his own name on Facebook, so you're not gonna be able to find him anywhere.
I'll give it to y'all. Flip Dexter.
Flip Dexter. So if you're in any of the whiskey clubs, he's in Someone Say Whiskey. Although he's a lurker. He don't post or nothing. But I think he's just in there because he loves me. To be honest.
Facts.
Facts.
He's right.
And if you want more information about Bourbon Real Talk, you can always go to bourbonrealtalk.com. You can go to Facebook/Bourbon Real Talk, Instagram/Bourbon Real Talk. You can get all my contact information. You can submit show ideas. You can give me feedback. You can give me comments. You can tell me I'm crazy. You can tell me you love it. But hopefully one day this podcast will help to bring people together.
Period.
And we will make the world a better place. So if you woke up this morning and you were unsure whether or not somebody loved you, just know that I love you. And I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk.
Hey, man, that's good stuff.